Hims and Hers stock is dropping double digits this morning. Shares are down 10.2% as I'm recording mid-morning. And this has really been driven by a short report. This is sort of a journalistic report and kind of a short seller report. I'll get to exactly the details behind that because it's a little bit of a convoluted structure of the company that's actually reporting this. But this is a pretty typical, somebody puts on a short position, then they put out a report that says all these terrible things about a company. Now, as an investor and as a shareholder in Hims, a company that I'm starting to cover more and more on this channel, I think it is important to put into context what this report says, what's true, what's maybe exaggerated a little bit. Of course, we never like to see a stock drop 10%, but is this more of a buying opportunity? Is this truth that they're speaking about the company? In a lot of ways, it is. The question for me as an investor, a long-term investor, is not, are these things true? It's, are they things that the company can fix long-term and actually improve? Because at the end of the day, what I think is disruptive about Hims and Hers is that it's going about the entire medical industry, the pharmaceutical industry, in a completely different way. And the way that they could change and improve some of the criticisms that are made in this specific report are ways that would be extremely difficult to improve the traditional healthcare industry. So I'm going to get to all that in this video, but hopefully this puts some context to the report, what we should take from it, why I'm not panicking today, and why I'm potentially looking to add more over the next couple of months, given the much more attractive price for Hims and Hers stock than it was just a couple of weeks ago. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content, and thanks to this video sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. Let's first start by looking at the stock. This is the Hims and Hers stock reaction. Like I said, shares are down about 10.2%. It is about noon on Wall Street. Well, let's look at the driver. This is what's driving things today, is this report by a media company called Hunter Brook. Now, I'm going to highlight this first. Hunter Brook Media is the one doing the reporting. Hunter Brook Capital is short shares of Hims stock. So this is one of these situations where I think what they're trying to present is this as journalism, but they also have a financial position in what they're reporting on. And that leads to, I think, at least exaggerations of a whole bunch of claims. I mean, even this headline, their GLP-1 injection is not FDA approved. That's not really true. I'll get to that in just a second. From a shady supplier. Okay, there are tons of shady suppliers that are in the healthcare industry. There's a lot of shady things that happen in the healthcare industry. So we're picking on Hims today. Are we going to highlight all the other things that are going on? You got to balance kind of the pros and cons here, but they're definitely angling this to be a very negative report, and you can see that from the beginning. So let's go through a couple of these. They sell knockoff GLP-1 weight loss drugs through a loophole that could end any time. Is that true? Kind of. This is from the FDA. And what they're basically saying here is that the basic drug in GLP-1s can be compounded. And this is the part that's applicable right here. When a drug is in shortage, compounders may be able to prepare a compounded version of that drug if they meet certain requirements in the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetics Act. As of May 2023, so over a year, Ozempic and Wegovy, if I'm saying that correctly, are both listed as FDA drug shortage on the FDA drug shortage list. So is this a loophole? Sure. But it's also answering a problem that is in the market, which is there's not enough of this product. It's very popular. And as a result, prices are extremely high. That's actually what Hims and Hers is answering with this, is they're offering GLP-1 products, or the compounded version of these products, at a much, much lower price. The FDA has received adverse event reports after patients use compounded semaglutide. Again, if I'm saying that correctly, patients should not use a compounded drug if an approved drug is available to treat a patient. Patients and healthcare professionals should understand that the agency does not review compounded versions of these drugs for safety, effectiveness, or quality. So is this a knockoff that is not approved by the FDA? Not really. It's actually approved specifically by the FDA. It also says that they are relying on a sole GLP-1 supplier with previously unreported ties to fraud and bankruptcy. This is one of those things where very possible. This is what been one of my criticisms of Hims and Hers, is that they're actually relying on a system to prescribe these drugs and then actually make these drugs, where they don't own a lot of that infrastructure themselves. They're starting to own a little bit more of it themselves. But a lot of these products are coming from third parties. The doctors that they work with are third parties and related parties. So it's a little bit of a strange structure. But the question here for me, long term, as a Hims and Hers shareholder, is this something that could be improved in the future? If this is fundamentally a problem, can Hims and Hers change this? Can they be compounding these products themselves? The answer would be yes. Can they deal with doctors differently? The answer is yes. If these same problems exist in the traditional healthcare industry, which they do, would that be easier to change? The answer is no. So again, if you're looking at a company that's growing really quickly, there are going to be warts under the surface. This is one of them with Hims and Hers. I don't like it, but we have seen this over and over again. Uber would operate illegally in cities that it knew it was going to be facing a lawsuit because that was the way to get into markets. This is what happens with disruption. Again, note it, understand what's going on, but it's not something to freak out as far as I'm concerned right now. An obesity doctor called GLP-1 knockoffs, the largest uncontrolled, unconsented human experiment of our lifetime. Again, what is the incentives of a doctor who is prescribing GLP-1 drugs? The incentives of that doctor is they make money when people come to their clinic and they are the one prescribing drugs. If there is a better business model where you don't need to go to a doctor, that is disruptive to their business. So are they going to be against this? Of course. Incentives matter. And this is one of those things where you need to think about the incentives of an obesity doctor answering a short report journalist's questions. Of course, they're going to be able to find somebody that's going to be able to say something like this. GLP-1s were prescribed after a 4-minute survey. Again, this is one of my criticisms of Hims and Hers as a product, maybe not as stringent as they should be on how they're prescribing products. But would you get more pushback if you went to a doctor and asked for GLP-1s? I think that would be pretty questionable. Think about all the products that Hims and Hers is prescribing. ED treatments, hair loss treatments, weight loss treatments. If you are seeking out a prescription for one of these treatments, is the traditional healthcare industry going to provide you better service than Hims and Hers? Maybe. Is Hims and Hers going to provide more access to more people and take down some of the barriers in the traditional system? Yes. And I would rather be on that side. So I'm not saying that this is wrong or incorrect, but again, this is something that can be fixed with better processes for Hims and Hers. And maybe this is the kind of report that pushes them to do those kinds of things. Hims and Hers can suffer liability for GLP-1, what they call knockoffs. I don't have any expertise on that, so I can't really comment on that. Same thing with litigation. Executives have been selling shares. Yes, any stock that you could want to look at, executives have probably been selling shares. Are they selling more shares than I would like? Yes. Do I wish they were buying shares on the open market? Yes. But again, this is one of those things where you can almost always criticize a company for insiders selling stock. That's what makes it so difficult to judge, is this a big deal or is this no big deal at all? And it's just sort of business as usual, people using stock as compensation, which is one of the things that they said here was that people were exercising their options and then immediately selling them. Well, yeah, it happens all the time. The other thing is the start of the article is talking about a Reddit user's experience. This is your main source, is a Reddit user. Again, take this kind of a report with a massive, massive grain of salt.
Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now.
So the strange thing here with this report is that I don't think, by and large, what's being reported is untrue, but it's being framed in extremely negative light, when in reality, it shows the business model that Hims and Hers is building is disruptive to the traditional ecosystem in the medical field. The doctors who are prescribing drugs, the companies that are actually selling drugs, the pharmacies that are giving you drugs. That is what Hims and Hers is trying to disrupt, is all that layer of bureaucracy. And is there going to be pain in building a different model? Is there going to be growing pains? Are they going to do things wrong? Yes, that is part of being a high growth business. That's part of being a disruptive company. But if Hims and Hers is successful and if they can improve some of these systems and some of the structures that are being criticized in an article like this, then that's the upside. That's the whole point of owning a company like this, is that it is at the end of the day a better solution than the existing medical industry. And that's why I own shares of Hims and Hers.
is because I think this is the kind of product that makes the system better in a lot of ways. There are prescriptions that we use in our household that it would be much, much easier and better for us to just do a 4-minute survey and then get the product delivered to our house for a tenth of the cost of what we pay by going through the traditional infrastructure, going to a doctor, paying a doctor to see them, getting that product prescribed, going to a pharmacy. The pharmacy gets it wrong. Now I have to deal with insurance. This whole thing is a mess. And Hims and Hers is trying to offer an alternative. It's not perfect. I wish it were better. It seems the company is improving. And as long as that's the case, that's the side that I want to be on from an investment perspective, is the company that's doing the disruption, that can iterate and improve rapidly over time. So that's why I take a short report like this as informative. But when you actually look at the entire business model and what the company is building, I don't think it breaks the investment thesis for Hims and Hers. In fact, I think it makes it a little bit stronger because it highlights how much the traditional ecosystem is pushing back against them. But what do you think about what we heard today? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.